Welcome to How Can I Keep From Singing, a podcast where we explore the power of group singing. My name is Stuart Stotts, coming to you from rural Wisconsin, and my guest today is John McCutcheon.
Let the town drift slowly by, can't she hear the steel rails humming? That's the hobo's lullaby.
One way to think about John McCutcheon is a one-man folk festival, a multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter, storyteller. John's also an activist and someone who believes deeply in the power of music and singing in particular to build connections and community. John's also from Wisconsin, and if there were a Wisconsin Music Hall of Fame, he would deserve a prominent spot in it. John, welcome to How Can I Keep From Singing?
It's great, and How Can I Keep From Singing was the name of my first album, released in 1974. Interestingly enough, I just got back from a tour, and I did that song as an encore, and it felt like I was returning home to a great signpost of my work that through everything for over 50 years now, it's singing that has brought me connection and peace and an opportunity to mull over things. It's great to be here with you because it's been way too long since I've seen you.
John, talk a little bit more about that, because often I think folks think of you, at least in part, as this amazing instrumentalist with hammer, dulcimer, and fiddle, and guitar, and banjo. And yet, singing is really important. Where did that come from for you, and how does it manifest?
I was introduced to folk music when I was still a little kid growing up in the Wausau area. My mom, when I was 11, made me sit down and watch the March on Washington with her. And it was notable for several things. Number one, it was the only time in my life that my mother ever invited me to watch television. But secondly, it was the day I was introduced to folk music. The civil rights movement was on everybody's television every night. And my mother was a social worker before she became a mom. She worked for Catholic Social Services. And so she knew that there was a bigger world out there than just the 9 kids that she had to, corral while her husband was a traveling salesman. So I was being the eldest, I was kind of the closest to adult companionship that she had. So I guess that's why she thought I would appreciate this. And it was also, the civil rights movement was also something in the forefront of our minds because of its spiritual foundation. I mean, it was led by clergy. They used biblical language. The songs were all repurposed hymns, which understood the power of the pronoun. They simply changed the singular to the plural, and suddenly we shall overcome and we shall not be moved. And I remember being blown away by the music of that day, because there was not only folk music, there was Marian Anderson, and then there was Mahalia Jackson, which for a little white kid growing up in a small town in Wisconsin, that was mind-blowing. But then there was Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and Peter, Paul and Mary and Odetta and Len Chandler. And I remember one of the most powerful moments was when Peter, Paul and Mary sang If I Had a Hammer. The cameras were panning the crowd and everybody was singing. And when Joan Baez sang We Shall Overcome, everybody was singing, even people on the dais who never sang. Everybody was singing, and so here was this music which was new to me. I'd never heard of folk music. I didn't know what folk music was, but it was connected to something that was bigger than itself. And it was about participation more than performance. I don't think any of those musicians thought, ooh, this is going to be a big career move for me to play at this thing, but they were trying to be helpful. That really impressed me. I was a normal 11-year-old kid. The Beatles had just come onto the scene, and I was listening to the radio just like every other kid. But this was different somehow, and my best friend, his mother made him watch the same thing, and we started talking about this kind of music and listening to it. The first album I ever bought with my own money, was a Pete Seeger album, and it was We Shall Overcome. You know, I actually have it in one of those album frames up on my wall, because I came home, I didn't know who Pete Seeger was really, but it was called We Shall Overcome, and I wanted that song. And it was a live concert. You went to a Pete Seeger concert, you didn't go there to watch. You were immediately turned into a choir. I think to Pete, it was a very political move to have people join in, because it required two things. It required that you have the guts to open your mouth and join in. And secondly, there was always a lot of harmony singing. And it was taking advantage of the differences that there were in the crowd. Soprano, alto, tenor, bass. It was powerful on so many levels. I remember sitting I was 13, and I was sitting on the living room floor listening to this playing on the hi-fi. And I'd never been to a concert. I didn't know what happened at concerts. But I wanted to do that. Number one, I wanted to go to a concert like that. I wanted to be that kind of a choir, because growing up Catholic, I didn't know that human beings could sound like that. I mean, singing out loud and with lusty 4-part harmony and answering back and all this stuff that was just outside of my purview of what it sounded like for groups to sing. And also, if that's what a concert is, you think of concert in terms of, for some people, concert means a guy showing off up on stage. But to me, it was always, we are doing something in concert with one another. And so it was really that initial introduction with seeing this crowd of 250,000 people singing these songs that bound them together and talked about what they wanted and made them feel strong and made them feel less alone. Because it's so easy out there to feel like you're alone and you're crazy or you're powerless. And then hearing a Seeger concert where you grow up your whole life being told that you can't sing, and you go to a Pete concert and you found out that you could, you believed that you were all alone, and then you found you weren't. And so that's a very powerful thing to experience. And I don't do concerts to show off. That's boring. I think if you're going to last in this trade, you have to get over the applause and the standing ovation, because I once told a group of young performers, I said, if you don't know how to get a standing ovation, you shouldn't be in the trade. And if you need a standing ovation, you shouldn't be in the trade. Because it's false. It's false, you know. At a Pete Seeger concert, you were clapping because of the experience. And maybe some people were clapping because Pete was the conductor of this great train ride they were all on. But it was, I remember Holly Near and I talking once about the power of just being, I was experimenting with being wireless. And she said, you know what would be really cool, John, is you could be playing and it would still be coming through the speakers, but you could walk off stage. And the audience would still be singing. And then what are they clapping for? They have to understand they're clapping for themselves, because you're not there anymore. So it's been a lifetime of learning how to make that happen and how to make it powerful for people.
I took a performance workshop with you at Augusta, maybe more than 30 years ago, and it was an amazing week. It shaped so much of what I've done since. But at the end of the week, Friday afternoon, there were maybe 15 people in the workshop, I don't know. You gathered us all together and you got us in a clump, as it were, and we sang, I'm on my way. And this experience was the first time I had really experienced the power of being immersed in voice where I couldn't really even hear my own. you know, and I think that's only possible when you're sort of either really loud or really close together. And that experience was so much a reflection, I think, of what you believe is important. So how did you get from this revelation as a kid, really, about the importance of singing together and wanting that, to actually doing it?
Well, you just start off doing it, Yeah, you're not very good. It's like when you play, whether it be an instrument or a sport. Well, I learned to play baseball by hanging out the way most kids did. There weren't camps or private lessons and stuff as there are now. You just went down to the ball field and you kind of hung out and you watched what the kids who were older and better than you did, and then you go off by yourself and you practice that just a little bit. How do you swing on a straight plane? How do you use your hips for power? How do you follow through? How do you take off for first base after you get a hit? And you suck at first, of course you do, because you don't know how to do it, and there's no school to learn this other than observing the people who came before you. And that's what I did. I watched how other people did it, and going to a concert of anybody, especially when I was starting off, was like going to a class. I would watch what they did. I would watch how they put sets together. I would watch what the emotional curve of their performance was, and I just learned a lot from. Did I go to school for this? No, but I had some of the best teachers in the world. And so you just experiment, and you suck at first, and you find out all kinds of things. Like the joke about Pete was that he sang every song twice. This land is your land. This land is this land is my land. This land is my. How people made it easier for people to sing along, and some of that was helping them know the words. I mean, I had a couple sheets of words, especially one in Spanish and one in phonetic Russian, that I would carry around with me, so people could, people from the audience would come up and hold it, and they could actually phonetically read what they were supposed to sing, choosing what key to do things in. I mean, I go to church now, and everything is way too high. And a lot of the men in the congregation don't sing, or you hear way down low. Learning how to make how to make it easy, almost inevitable, or impossible to ignore. I'm just making it so easy for you. And you learned what it took for an audience to learn, say, a chorus. Or with the song, I'm on my way. It's an answer back song. I'm on my way, I'm on my way. And then you sing the last line. I'm on my way, glory, hallelujah, Lord, I'm on my way. Just answer me back, and we're going to sing this last line together. And I would sing it and then say, sing it with me now. I'm on my way, glory. Through trial and error, through observing people that do it well, you figure out how to make it easy for people to sing along, because nothing will kill people singing along than giving them something that's too hard to begin with. Part of doing a concert at all is convincing the people from the beginning, like, I'm okay. I'm not going to hurt you. You're going to be safe here. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I don't think you can do. It's sort of like being in that Pete concert. You got in there and maybe you didn't know that you were going to sing along. He would start with something that was not terribly difficult, and then you got confidence. In the course of an hour or two, you're ready to try something more challenging, but you got to make it worth it. It's got to be a really good song that people want to sing. It's juggling all these things, and over 5 or 6 decades of making every mistake there is to make twice, eventually you hit on some things. It's like sequencing a set. Oh, this song really works well with this song, or this song illuminates the song that came before it. It's all part of a whole. A set to me is more like chapters in a book than a random collection of songs.
Hallelujah, the great story.
You're listening to How Can I Keep From Singing? My name is Stuart Stotts, and my guest today is John McCutcheon. John, talk a little bit more about that. I've seen you a number of times as in performance. You are somebody, I think, that the participation genuinely means something to in a concert. I think there's some folk singers who just kind of go, got to have a sing along because I'm a folk singer. But I don't think that's how you look at it. How do you think about that within the structure of a set?
I always like to end the show, or if I'm at a festival and I do one set, I like to end with something that we're all doing together. To me, it diffuses the appreciation. I'm not doing it just to stroke my ego. I'm not doing it so that I know people like me. I mean, that's a real rookie attitude. If you're going to have a long life of meaningful work, no matter what you do, it can't, and no matter what you trade, it's not about you. So I often will, and if I'm doing 2 sets, as I did in every show on this recent tour, I'll usually end each one with something that we can sing with. And on this tour, one of my very favorite songs, and it's one of those songs that's got a lot of windows into it, so people can approach it from a variety of perspectives. The great Bob Franke song, "The Great Storm Is Over." And I also did it on this tour because Bob passed away last fall. Wanted to honor him. And it's a song that I have learned because I make myself available at the end of a concert. Though people come up and say, I used that song at my father's memorial service, or I sang this song on election night 2020. The great storm is over. Little did we know. El Nino. It's a song that not only puts a great big punctuation point at the end of a particular stretch of songs, but it's something that we do together, and it's more powerful because we do it together. And I will sing a harmony part, which will let some people who say, I want to sing a harmony, but I'm not really sure what to do. Oh, I'll follow that guy. Like in high school choir, I'll just sing what the guy next to me is singing, right, which is how half of us got through high school choir. Some evenings I will start with something that has a very simple sing-along, just maybe a line that repeats every verse, just to sort of get people used to being a part of the show. But you're right, I don't do all sing-alongs, and every song I write certainly isn't a sing-along, but sometimes I have written songs that I didn't know were sing-alongs that audiences have taught me were sing-alongs, because they'll just start singing the chorus. And I know we've reached a good point in the relationship that we've built in the course of this concert when people feel like they can just join in. And I think, oh, well, good. They feel like they're a part of this too, and I don't have to invite them. They just feel like, oh, I want to sing this.
Do you ever intentionally write a song wanting it to be a sing-along?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Because when I started to play the guitar when I was 14 years old, my family didn't have any money for lessons. So I schwinned my way down to the Marathon County Public Library, and the only book that the Dewey Decimal System had under the subject heading guitar was this little paperback book entitled Woody Guthrie Folk Songs. I don't know who the acquisitions director was in that library, but I have been grateful to her for the rest of my life, because here, I didn't know who Woody Guthrie was, but every song in that book, I could tell he had written with an audience in mind. He was talking to somebody. And sometimes he would say, you. And I felt like, oh, this is a different kind of way to write a song. And so my entire career as a songwriter, I just naturally thought, I'm writing this to be sung, not necessarily to sing along, but the song isn't complete until it's had some kind of interaction with a listener other than me. It's sort of like I was in Chile and I was at Pablo Neruda's place in Isla Negra, and in the courtyard between his house and his writing studio was a little dried up fountain, but there was a boat a little fishing boat in there. And the director of the Neruda Foundation said, "Oh, Pablo built that boat." And I said, "Hold on." He was famously terrified of the sea. And it was on a huge cliff, and the water was fantastic below. And she said, "Oh, yeah, he never took it out." And I said, "Well, then it's not a boat." She said, "What are you talking about? It's got a mast, it's got a deck, a keel, a rudder, all this kind of..." I said, "It's not a boat until you put it in the water and it functions the way it's intended to be." And I feel that way about songs. I don't know what work it has to do. And it's not my job really to know that, because listeners are going to hear the song through their own experience, and they're going to say, "Oh, it's about this." And maybe it wasn't what I thought I was right. My song "Water from Another Time" about my grandparents' farm in southwest Wisconsin. The environmental movement has used that. "Calling All the Children Home." I can't tell you how many pastors have come up to me and said, "We use that as a communion song or as a welcoming song in our church." Sometimes songs are sing-alongs that I didn't think were going to be sing-alongs. And then, yeah, I will write some stuff. Sometimes they're really what my buddy Tom Paxton calls short shelf life songs. I'll be at a rally or I'm going to do a concert for a particular group of people, and something in the world has happened that I know these people are invested in, so I will write something, and it's always more powerful if people can participate in that. I think as a listener, it feels like a gift from the songwriter when, "Oh, I have a part too?" And sometimes it happens unwittingly. There's a song I wrote called "I Am an Immigrant," and I wrote it years ago, just about us. The first time I ever sang it, and that's when it felt like a real song, when I was in front of an audience, at the end, I just thought of this thing on the fly, and I said, "Okay, here's your part. I am an immigrant. I am an immigrant. I am," and it was for people to make a statement of solidarity. It was to say, "Yes, I'm an immigrant." Maybe my maternal grandparents came 3 generations ago. And some people have been here since the 1600s, but that's what we came from. And it was a way for people to, after this experience with the song, and which ends, "This is your story that you have forgotten, but I am your glory." And I used the Lazarus quotes from the Statue of Liberty. And so it was a way for people to say, "Yeah, but I've written answer back songs." It's one of the things about being a student of traditional music is that's where you learn how to write songs, because those were songs that survived only because people thought they were good.
I was interviewing Matt Watroba, who you probably know, and he said his advice to songwriters was, if you want to write songs that are going to last, make them singable. You may write some beautiful song with, poetic lyrics and all of this, but if you want people to still be singing it, make it so that it's singable. And I think you're also talking a little bit about how sometimes a song leader can see in a spontaneous way how this song can be adapted to this moment, or this song can be expanded to include participation where maybe you didn't see it before, but also to address something that's present in the room.
Well, also to focus on a kind of unitive element in the whole thing. Garrison Keillor is still out there doing essentially one-man shows. And one of the first things that he does is he starts singing, "America the Beautiful," or some old hymn, or something that everybody in the audience knows, "Bye Bye Love." There is this sense that, oh, we all know this. We all, somehow deep inside, this is important to us. And it doesn't matter if you came with a, "Ice Go Home" or a MAGA shirt on. Taking songs that are part of our common vocabulary and having everybody join in and sing it, it can create an atmosphere where we can feel like we're connected to one another. Mother Teresa once said, "One of the problems in the world today is that we've forgotten we belong to one another." And you can actually get people to listen to things that are challenging to them if you've created a foundation of unity and safety. I can have my opinion. That doesn't mean I'm telling you what to do.
Yeah, the power of unity in singing is a recurring theme as I talk with folks. John, just one more question before we're done. If you were going to a song circle, and not as a performer and so on, but just as someone coming to sing along with a group of people, what are some songs that you might have, call it maybe 2 or 3 songs, that would be sort of at the top of your list that you know are going to get people singing together easily?
I used to live in Charlottesville, Virginia for many years, and I got a call from the woman who used to work at my office, and an African-American woman who was a member of the prominent black church in town. And she said, there's this thing going to happen. The Unite the Right is going to be in, the Klan is going to be here, Nazis are going to be here, and we're having a meeting at the church tonight. And the pastor said, you used to work for John, ask him what he would suggest. And I said, go out there and sing the national anthem, and sing This Land Is Your Land, and sing Amazing Grace. Because one of the things I learned from Dr. King, and I'm paraphrasing here, is if you're going to fight the man with his weapons, he will kill you because they are his weapons, and he knows how to use them better than you do. So if you want to fight the man, you fight the man with weapons he does not understand. What are these people going to do if they hear a big crowd singing the national anthem or Amazing Grace? If I were going to a song circle, We Shall Overcome it's a song that has such spiritual heft, and it has history, and it's determinedly hopeful and unitive, and it means so many things to so many people. That would definitely be one. And then maybe some fun ones. Down in the Valley. These things that people can pull out of their memories, and all the stuff that comes along and hanging on those memories, it makes the songs so much more powerful and so much more meaningful and personal to people. Maybe the last time they sang something like that was, I don't know, at their grandfather's birthday party or at summer camp or at Bible school.
John, I just want to thank you so much for talking with me here today. It's been a pleasure to reconnect and gain something from all you've learned over the years. So thank you.
Oh, well, Stuart, it was great to see you. I well remember that class that you were in at Augusta, and it's great to make connection with you again. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
You've been listening to How Can I Keep From Singing? My name is Stuart Stotts, and my guest today, John McCutcheon.